I recently spoke about two job offers that I have received in a previous video, and you might check out the video, but to summarize, basically one of the offers was related to a company involved with concealed hinges. So this company produces concealed hinges, whereas another company designs industrial plants. And I have received these job offers because basically I'm a mechanical engineer, so I work in the industrial world. I was also a PhD student, so I have some kind of academic background. I have also worked 1 year as a postdoc, so I have some kind of academic background. And when you have this kind of academic background and you decide to leave academia and go work in the industrial world, well, it depends on where you live. I live in Italy, and especially in Italy, but I don't think it is just something specific to Italy. Experience is rewarded much more than an academic background. I think that many people can relate to this. Even if you studied a lot, even if you have lots of capabilities with the abstract reasoning, well, it's likely that there are other people who have not studied as much, but they have much more experience, who are much more rewarded, not just in terms of money, but also in terms of careers. They are much more rewarded than somebody involved with academia. And this is not something general. I don't want to generalize, because every person might have a different path, and it's okay, it's not a problem. I'm not trying to generalize or trying to throw some dirt on anybody, because that's not the case. I'm just trying to think out loud. These are my considerations. You might not agree with them, and it's fine. It's not a problem. It's my personal story, my personal experience. I've also had the opportunity in the past to go live abroad and continue my academic path. I decided not to do so for family reasons or for personal reasons in general, because it would have been too difficult to enter the academic route here in Italy. The system is quite intricate. It's not very easy to find a stable job that allows you to keep researching and at the same time having a family or living your life comfortably. And by comfortably, I mean not to the degree that you're going to be wealthy, but just to be able to pay your bills. In academia, sometimes, especially in Italy, the salaries are very, very low. In general, the salaries are low in Italy on average for every sector, every kind of job. Also because there are very high taxes, so maybe your gross salary might be quite high, but at the same time you have several taxes to pay, and unfortunately that decreases your net salary, unfortunately. But never mind. I decided to make this video to tell you about my decision. So I had two job offers, and I also more or less talked about the salaries that I was offered. I talked about the range. I mentioned the range, and it's not too bad. You can do more, especially if you live in very industrialized cities like Milan, Turin, Bologna, Rome, and many more, especially in the northern part of Italy. But I live in a small city, so the salaries that I have mentioned are not too low. They should not be deemed too low. But anyway, my decision was the following. I have made this choice. I decided to give in my resignation to my employer. I described my feelings and also some anxiety regarding the fact that I would leave the company, basically. And I apologized that I relayed this information at the end of December, when the human resources manager was on vacation, skiing in the mountains. It was not something nice to read when you are on vacation. At the same time, he called me. He tried to understand the situation. He understood that I had given in my resignation. Then he arranged the meeting online, and after a few days, when we all came back from vacation, we got back to work, he decided to meet me again with other people from the human resources department and try to understand whether there was the possibility to keep me in the company. Not just by offering a higher salary, higher than the offer that I had accepted. And by the way, I had accepted the offer of the company which produces concealed hinges. Basically, I talked with my company, the human resources manager, and I simply reported all the feelings that I had, the fact that I wanted to use a greater percentage of my skills, at least more than the skills that I am using in my company. While I'm recording this video, I'm still working for my company, which produces packaging machines. And this is also something that I have discussed in previous videos. Anyway, we talked, and the human resources manager opened up to offering some opportunities, and in particular these opportunities were related to the technical department. So I have been offered a position in the technical department. There were also other jobs available in the service department, but I was not really interested. I also arranged a meeting with the technical department, and in particular with the technical department director or technical department manager, whatever you want to call him. We talked about the possibility of keeping me in the company and working in the technical department. And he was quite interested in my resume, the fact that I would be different from other people working there, because there are not many people in the technical department who have a PhD, but not just a PhD, sometimes even a degree. They finish school, and some of them simply finish some specialized school. These are schools which specialize in either mechanical drawing or electrical drawing. So they might have a program more related to mechanics, and some of them might have a program more related to electronics, or some of them more related to computer science. But these are not degrees. They are more practical schools where you learn practical stuff, and it's good because most of the employees here in Italy, most of the industries that we have search for this kind of people. It's just a case. It's like that, and it's okay. You have to accept it. It's the way it is. But anyway, the technical department manager saw some interesting roles that I might have in the technical department, because sometimes when you have to understand whether a machine can reach some performance, for example rotating at a certain velocity, then you have to be able to deal with moments of inertia, understand the torques that are applied to the machine, and if the machine can withstand that kind of torque, and so on and so forth. So there are also some interesting applications of mechanics that you might need to know in order to be able to understand whether a machine can fulfill certain requirements, and so on and so forth. So I will not, of course, digress in this video, but you might intuitively understand what I'm talking about, especially if you have a physics background or also a mathematical background. The human resources manager decided to make a counterproposal, and of course that counterproposal would lead to a higher salary with respect to the one offered by the company whose offer I had accepted, and in particular I'm talking about the company which produces concealed hinges. Now I am at a point where I need to call the company which produces concealed hinges and simply tell them that I decided to not accept anymore their offer. And this is not so easy to do, because you need to be a little bit careful here, because you risk deteriorating some relationships between me and that company, or even between that company and my company. You know, you have to be careful when doing this kind of stuff. There is always the risk of looking unprofessional. So you have to be able to do it properly. And by the way, there is also a penalty clause in the proposal that I was offered by the company which produces concealed hinges. So they put a penalty clause in the contract, and this penalty clause might activate if I do not show up at work within the date written on the contract. So I have to call them and kindly ask them not to activate this penalty clause. And by the way, there is also another way to circumvent this penalty clause. Okay, sorry, I needed to park my car. Now I'm in the parking lot and I can speak without thinking about driving. So I was saying that there is another way not to activate the penalty clause, and this other way is due to the fact that I can show up at work at this other company which produces concealed hinges, and I can simply terminate the contract by giving in my resignation one more time, because there is an initial trial period in this company, and I could use that kind of period to decide not to go on with the company and simply terminate the contract, which is something that can be done without any risk of penalty activation. But it is something that, of course, would make me look unprofessional, and it is something that I would not like to do. At the same time, I hope that speaking on the phone with the company will be enough to circumvent the risk of activating this penalty in the contract. And by the way, it's up to the company to activate the penalty or not, so it's up to their decision. I have to be able to speak with them and make them understand my own feelings, what led me to sign with them, but at the same time accept the counterproposal made by my current company. And I know it doesn't sound too good, but at the same time I have been offered a different job, not just with a higher salary, because it's not just about the salary, which is something, of course, to be considered. That's unavoidable, especially in times like this where you have lots of bills to pay, and at the same time there is a huge inflation and the economic situation in Italy doesn't look really thriving. But you also want to feel comfortable while you're working. You want to enjoy what you're doing. And that's something that unfortunately I was missing with my previous job. When I say previous, actually I should say current job, because I'm still working as a sales engineer and project engineer. What I don't like about the job is the fact that the work is a little bit disorderly. There are too many inputs, because you might receive a phone call every 2 or 3 minutes, and you have to interrupt what you're doing. So it's not exactly what I love doing, because I love finishing a task or starting a task, finishing it, and try to think about the problem and also enjoy the problem. And I'm not allowed to do that now, because I need to be constantly interrupted. It's just the particular job that I have, the particular role, and at the same time the fact that we sell a lot of machines and we deal with several projects. So even my bosses know that my office needs more people, more employees. But at the same time, maybe they do not have the budget to hire more people. And this is just a few cents about my current situation, and I wanted to share it with you. Anyway, now I need to go to work as a sales engineer for now.